at noon Eastern from all different places. And we are here for Eileen Fisher's Women Together. So if you'd like to type in the chat just a little where you're coming from, we can share some of those. My name is Antoinette, and I am the host of Women Together. And really glad to see you all. There is a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the US. And it is so wonderful to come together as a group of women and just connect with each other and to land in what's going on with resilience and with a practice. So we do tiny practices to share with each other how we show up in the world. And it's really more about the being aspect of our lives rather than kind of what we do day after day after day or week after week. So it's really wonderful to be all together. And we are coming from very much across the United States and a few from outside the US. We have Arlington, Massachusetts, San Rafael, California, Hadley, Mass, Wilmington, Delaware, New Jersey, Palm Beach, rainy, dreary West Palm Beach, Florida. Anne is here from Sweden, New York City, Long Island, Ellicott, Maryland, Massachusetts, Falls Church, Virginia. Wonderful. It's wonderful to see everyone back. Toronto, Chicago, and still coming in. So a warm welcome to all who are chiming in from all over. I'm just trying to see if there are any YouTube commenters in yet, but we'll give it another minute or two for those to load. So a warm welcome just as we land here in our own place, in our own space, maybe even in our own seat. I see some babies have joined us today for Women Together. Hello. So maybe we can do a little welcome, and just if you'd like to turn on your video, it's a nice way to just be able to see each other where we are. And you can just pick 4 squares on our Zoom screen. If you go into the top right into gallery view, you can just pick 4 squares to welcome in these 4 women or squares of people who you see there, and maybe just give a little wave, a little hello. What a beautiful group we have joining in today. Just landing here and holding each other. Seeing our beautiful baby member today doing a little dance for us. Wonderful. As we have been building this community over weeks and months and just connecting with each other, whether you are brand new, whether it's your first time, hopefully there's a lifelong Women Together baby here now, that we're all holding each other and we're holding these intentions and all the different places that we're in and this time of being on our little blue planet together. So just holding our little piece of earth with our feet, we can do a moment of stillness and just land with what brought us here today. We have a very special guest, so I'm really looking forward to introducing her in just a few moments. But as we land here today, just being in the body and being on this little planet Earth together. So if you can get your feet flat on the ground, we'll do our first tiny practice, which is really just a moment of stillness. And I'll ring us in with a sound of a singing bowl, and I'll ring us back together. So just as you move into a moment of stillness, the invitation, if it's your first time, just tuning into the breath. Just follow the breath in and out. And if a thought comes in, just letting it be and letting it go, letting it do its thing. Just being here in the body. can bring your energy back to the screen, to the computer together. Just having landed here in this Women Together space, in this moment, just considering what brought you here today. What brought you here to our conversation, to our connect practice. Perhaps it's our special guest, Kristi Nelson, who I'll tell you more about, but she's the author of Wake Up Grateful. And I'll read the full title, but just knowing that we're coming into this conversation about gratitude, maybe sharing one thing that you're grateful for, or one thing that brought you here today. And we'll just read a couple of them out, and then I will turn it over to Kristi, who I'm such a big fan of. Marilyn says, weekly dose of serenity. Linda, Kristi Nelson is great. I'm grateful for this time with you all. Kala, grounding, human connection. Antoinette's voice. Kathleen, each moment. Carly, the shift to the groupings. Wonderful. We will do a breakout today. Ithi says, today is World Gratitude Day. Good reminder. Thank you. Lauren, chats with our groups. Yes, so we like to provide wonderful little practices to be able to just connect with each other and different groupings each week. But as we connect with each other, to really set the ground and to set the stage with shared practice, so that when we go into our groups, we're coming from a shared practice. And today is about gratitude. Pat says, overwhelmed by sadness and loss, need to reframe to gratefulness. Marcia, living gratefully changes your outlook and outcome entirely. And we have I'm grateful for my health and my family and these sessions. So there are a few more from YouTube. Happy to be here. Hartford, Washington, California, Sammamish, Washington. Beautiful. So we're all coming in from different places and different desires, different longings, different experiences. And in order to bring us more deeply into our practice, I'll introduce Kristi, who not only is the author of Wake Up Grateful, the transformative practice of taking nothing for granted, she's also the executive director of a network for grateful living. She has spent her adult life immersed in nonprofit leadership, fundraising, organizational development, helping to lead and strengthen organizations committed to progressive social and spiritual change. And I love Kristi's new book and the work that you've been doing, Kristi, and even in our most recent conversation, just felt so much more at peace personally with thinking about what is it that I am really grateful for and how does that actually set me up for the next steps in my life, even if it's the next steps that I'm taking this afternoon. So I really am just grateful for our conversation, look forward to more of those. And Kristi, I'm so glad to welcome you here to Women Together and to our wonderful little group here. So over to you.
Thanks, Antoinette. Hello, everyone. I know this is such a beloved space, and I enter it with reverence, honestly. I know that what's been created here already, and for those who are new to the space, it's an amazing invitation for people to show up and belong and to practice being more fully present to their lives. And so indeed, I do want to wish you World Gratitude Day. It's also International Day of Peace, and may it be so. This is a wonderful day. It's our last full day of summer for many of us here, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. And so much to celebrate. And one of the things that I want to invite us to do is to return to the space where Antoinette brought us and just start with a couple of, just going to take a minute. And I want to invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable or lower your gaze. And I want you to, if you can, put your hands on your chest. I like to put both hands on my chest, just under your clavicle. And spread your fingers. And the point of this little practice is to connect with your body breathing itself into life. So let yourself feel your lungs, your chest rising and falling about 1,000 times an hour. Every hour of your life, your lungs give you life. You are fully alive until your last breath. No one more alive than anyone else. As long as you are breathing, there is more right with you than wrong with you. See if you can feel your heartbeat and how your heartbeat corresponds with the rhythm of your breath. This force inside your chest, these two forces joining to give you life, pumping blood through all of your incredible system of veins and arteries through your body. Let yourself feel your breath as a gift, actually, in this moment. Let yourself feel the breath as beauty, as a blessing. And actually feel your breath as a privilege. We breathe for those who cannot breathe unassisted, who cannot breathe without fear, who cannot breathe with ease. Every breath, a miracle, not to be taken for granted. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths if you can. Feel your hands rising on your chest and feel them lower as you exhale. Feel them rise, and with the rising, open your eyes and greet what is in front of you. I like to move us from the mindful awareness of the breath, which is a more neutral, beautiful celebration of the awareness of the breath and it coming in and the going out, to a real celebration of the breath. It's a beautiful starting place for this experience of gratefulness. So I want to start, we're here today to talk about living gratefully. And I want to start by differentiating gratitude and gratefulness for you, because there's a big difference. And gratitude is typically something that we think of that we have to wait for in life. We wait for things to be just right, to get just exactly the thing that we want, for something incredible to happen. And we tend to think of it as coming from outside of us. And we orchestrate experiences, we hope and we long, and we basically wait for gratitude or gratitude-inducing experiences to arrive. Gratefulness is a state of being grateful, just like mindfulness is a state of being mindful. And it's something that's available to us all the time. It's actually an inner orientation to life. It's something that comes from the inside out that doesn't require anything specific to happen. One of the things I like to say is gratefulness is gratitude that doesn't depend on what happens. Gratefulness is an internal experience, something that we can bring to life that grounds itself in life itself as the gift. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is reorienting ourselves to this idea of gratitude waiting to receive something. And so one of the questions I want to ask is, what are we waiting for when there's so much already so stunningly miraculous happening inside of us and around us so much of the time that can contribute to our experience of gratefulness? So we need to reframe this idea of receiving. Receiving isn't just from, oh, I need somebody to come and give me that present I've been waiting for, or the experience I've been waiting for, or the good feelings I've been waiting for. You know, gratefulness is an inside job. It's proactive. So one of the things that I like to talk about is when we're basically reframing receiving, we're receiving all of the time from life. As long as we're alive, we just had a lived experience of the breath as a gift, as something that we're receiving in every moment. Each of these things that we're receiving in every moment in life can be anchors for us to experience a deep, profound sense of gratefulness. We find our touchstones, we connect to those things. So I want to ask people, I'm going to name a few of the things. We have our bodies. Think of what our bodies are doing in every single moment that could make us absolutely awestruck. It could take our breath away. I often think if I focused on what my body was doing all the time, I could never leave the house. I'd be so in awe. It would be my full-time job. I would just be thinking about all the systems that are working in concert, all the things that are functioning in my body, not what isn't working and not what I can't do, but what I can do and what is working, reorienting to that. The natural world. Think of what the natural world is offering us in all times. That's unconditional. The sun coming up and the sun going down. Weather every single day that's here to surprise us, to delight us, to challenge us. The gifts that we get to eat and drink, that we have the ability to have water, that we have food, that we call what Brother David, who founded our organization, calls the gifts of civilization. In any moment that you can access running water, electricity, technology, hot running water, talk about a miracle, something that we can't, take for granted, because everything that is not ours for the taking at all times is a privilege, right? So these privileges are things that not everybody is able to experience. Unconditional gratefulness lives in this place where no matter what, we can experience these gifts, the gifts of love, the gifts of people's labor who are making our lives work, the people who deliver our mail and pick up our trash. There is so much to orient ourselves to that can bring us into a state of gratefulness and that are unconditional. So one of the things that's really powerful is to think, not what are the things that come and go. It's like, oh, I love a sunny day, but guess what? It's never going to be sunny all the time. I love it when my body feels good. Your body isn't going to feel good all the time. I love it when people are really actively loving me every minute. Like that feels really great. And like doing what I want them to do. It's not going to happen all the time. So my question is, and we can just do a quick reflection in chat. What are the riches in your life that cannot be lost? What are the things that you receive from life that no matter what, until your last breath, are going to be here? What are the things that open you to awe and that bring about appreciation? Great, I love, so maybe somebody else can read some of these a little bit. So, or maybe just keep looking at the chat, it's beautiful. Maya Angelou says, and I love this, my ability to create art, nature, and keep putting the things in there. What are the things that are yours no matter what, that right till the last breath, you can appreciate? Maya Angelou says, this is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. We deserve to wake up in amazement. We deserve to celebrate life every single day that we have it, because nothing is promised to us. And there are a lot of people who thought they would be here today who are not here. So actually taking life for granted is so much flying in the face of treasuring life. And one of the things that we think is when we're filled with sadness, it becomes hard to be grateful. When we're grieving, take it from me, I know my mom died not long ago at 78 years old, and it was really hard for her. And in that, part of what I know is that how I honor her is with every day that I live my life gratefully. I honor the losses of the people I've loved who have died in their 40s of cancer, who are no longer here, who have died from really difficult circumstances. That's a way of loving them, is to be grateful for the fact of being alive and not to forget it. So being here now and beholding everyone and everything as if for the first or the last time is a way of being reverent for life, of actually honoring life. And this is such an incredible thing because everything in our lives flourishes in the nourishment of our appreciation. Think about it. Everything flourishes in the nourishment of appreciation. Beautiful. Thank you all for your beautiful responses. Appreciation is actually active. It's a verb. It's active. It's something that begs to be acted upon. When you appreciate something, it's actually generative and it changes things. So what I want to say is that gratefulness is actually what brings gratitude to life. It brings gratitude to life in both senses of that word. You bring gratitude to life in yourself, and you bring gratitude to life in the world and for other people as well. So we live gratefully now because we can, because we're here, and because we have the ability to be here with our full presence. And this is a way to honor the moments that we have, knowing that we don't know how many we have, to be very sober about this. And gratefulness, I want to say, is not toxic positivity. It's not overriding what's difficult. It's not actually Pollyanna-ish. It's not just looking at things that are good and putting rose-colored glasses on. Actually, quite the opposite. What I know is that when I wake up grateful in the spirit of Maya Angelou's, this is a wonderful day, I've never seen this one before, and I live with what I call fidelity to life, fidelity to my moments, not cheating life by being half awake. When I live fully awake and I honor life with my presence, then I'm not cheating life. I'm holding fidelity to life. And we cheat life and we cheat ourselves when we walk around half asleep, half awake to what's extraordinary. And when we focus on what's extraordinary, and the truth is, everything is extraordinary. The ordinary is extraordinary. It's one of the principles of grateful living. When we fill ourselves up with this, fill the well with what's working, with what we can do, with what is in service of our lives, with what's magnificent, then we make ourselves more able to deal with, to work with, to respond to everything that's difficult in life. Period. Full stop. This is the way to fill the well. The way to fill the well is just let ourselves notice all of what is already richly in life, in service of life for us. And this is the widest embrace that we can possibly have. What I like to say is gratefulness is when the great fullness of our hearts greets the great fullness of life. And the great fullness of life is everything. The great fullness of life is like Rumi's poem, The Guest House. When anger comes, when sadness comes, when sorrow comes, when injustice comes, how do we greet those things with the great fullness of our hearts? Not to shirk, not to shy, but to lean in with that wellspring filled up of what we know is possible from appreciating and drawing strength from the appreciation that we're able to move forward in our lives with. It's the gift. It's the gift, and we have to keep filling. It's like a battery. When do we live most gratefully? One of the things I want to say is that wake-up calls happen in life. And I don't know if you know what a wake-up call is, but I do. And one of the things I want to talk about is what wakes us up. Like one of the things I said is gratefulness doesn't wait for something to happen. It waits for us to be awake to what is true about life that is worthy of our appreciation and praise. So gratefulness waits for us to be awake. Wake-up calls will wake us up to what matters. and we've all probably had them. So I'm going to ask you to put in the chat, what is a moment, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. What's a moment when you have had an experience of waking up that's made you take something less for granted, made you take life less for granted? These are often difficult times. There are often times when we get disappointed, when something that we want doesn't happen. And I can tell you that my wake-up call was getting a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Stage 4, which I learned was end stage, which is like end stage means there's no stage beyond end stage. I got a stage 4 cancer diagnosis when I was 32 years old. And I had lymphoma that had metastasized from my chest to my spine. I couldn't walk. I couldn't move, and I didn't know if I would stay alive, actually. I really faced the possibility of the end of my life. And that was a wake-up call to me that immediately gave me perspective, like, oh my gosh, I've really been taking so much of life for granted, and now I have these moments, and they're precious, and they're numbered, and I have no idea how many I have. And that's true for all of us every day. The truth is, none of us know. And so to live fully, to live gratefully in the face of not knowing is one of the most courageous things you can do. I know you've had conversations in this forum about courage and living courageously. To live gratefully is to live courageously. It's to live with your heart on your sleeve. It's to live with your heart pounding out of your chest. It's to say, I'm going to be grateful. I don't care if I look like an idiot. I don't care how it shows up. I'm going to tell people I love them. I'm not going to miss a moment or an opportunity. It can be a little bit wild and kind of radical. But what has become a wake-up call for you? For me, loss has been a wake-up call. Divorce was a wake-up call. Illness has been a wake-up call. Chronic illness that I still deal with. Acute illness. Aging as somebody turning 70. So all of these things wake us up. And what we want is to be woken up to greater appreciate the gifts of life as we have them. And one of the things I think about is I had a car accident yesterday, actually, the first one I've had in 35 years. Nobody got hurt. I didn't hit anything but a tree stump that was like 2 feet off the ground, but my car wouldn't function anymore. And I went up on top of this tree stump and my car got stuck. And I sat there for a second and I was like, oh my God, and when you almost have an accident and you spin to the side of the road, if you've ever had this experience and your breath gets taken away and you think, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be alive. I can't believe it. And not everybody makes it out of this alive. Where does that awareness go the rest of the time? In the rest of the moments that we're alive, where does that awareness go? Part of what I've realized is we need to develop perspective, and wake-up calls give us perspective. So living gratefully is all about cultivating perspective. And we can talk about that more, but right now, what I want to talk about is that grateful living is, thank you all for your comments, by the way. Grateful living is the embodied practice, I'm just going to put this little note here, of gratefulness. When we live gratefully, we embody gratefulness fully, and it helps return us to remembering what matters. Those wake-up calls remind us what matters. This returns us to remembering what matters over and over again. Reconnecting with the breath. Oh my gosh, I'm alive. It's another day. I'm here. So it's a way of life. It's a way of being. Living gratefully is a way of being. And what I want to do is to just, I know I've only got a couple more minutes left, and then I'm going to send you into breakout rooms. Oh, I could be with you for so long, and I'm trying to make this like a whole weekend workshop in 15 minutes. But what I want to say is grateful living learns from everything, and through the practice of what I call stop, look, go. That's Brother David's practice. It's stop, look, go. When we stop, we get to pause and connect. Women together connect with ourselves, connect with life. When we stop, we pause, we connect. When we look, we get perspective. We yield. We become aware of our environments before we go. And we're a culture that's rabidly obsessed with green lights. The green lights are go, and we want to go all the time. But life is full of yellow lights and red lights, and they're there for a reason. They're there to stop us. They're to help us look around, to see what's in our environment, to get perspective on what is here, to notice, and before we go. So the grateful living practice, these practices help us reconnect with our commitment to learn from life, because it's only actually in stopping and looking, it's in the yellow and the red lights actually, that we really learn from life. If we're always going, it's hard to learn. So there's 5 principles to grateful living. And I can just tell you quickly what they are, and then we're going to move you into breakout rooms and have you consider some of these questions that I have for you. So the 5 principles are: life is a gift. Greet each moment gratefully, not everything. Greet each moment gratefully, and you are always receiving. Everything is surprise. Remember, we said nothing is predictable. Life is uncertain. Everything is surprise. Open to wonder, opportunity abounds. The ordinary is extraordinary. Take nothing for granted, and life is abundant. Suddenly, abundant. Life, take nothing for granted. Appreciation is generative. Tend what you value, and what you value thrives. That's a very powerful one. We tend our values, we tend the world, we tend the natural world. And finally, love is transformative. Embrace the great fullness of life, and your heart overflows. When your heart overflows, it reconnects you to life as a gift. So we're going to focus on life is a gift. Greet each moment gratefully, each moment that you're alive gratefully as much as you can. You are always receiving. All those things that we said are the riches that can never be lost. So the practices for here to take into your breakout room is, if you lived more gratefully, what would change for you? If you dared to live more gratefully, what would change for you? And what might be in the way of living your life more gratefully? And what one thing could you do about it today? It's World Gratitude Day. So those are kind of 3 questions. If you lived more gratefully, your life more gratefully, what would change for you? What's in the way of living gratefully? And what one thing could you do to remove one of those obstacles between you and this more grateful life where your well is full and overflowing? So I know those are going to get put in the chat. Thank you, E.T. Thank you, Antoinette, whoever's putting those things in there. It's a lot of questions, and I've said a lot of words. So I would actually recommend, when you go into your breakout rooms, just take one moment to reconnect with your breath, actually, as you join each other. You've got some time, look around, feel your breath, feel the miracle, reconnect with that sense of the body as a miracle, and then launch into sharing with each other. Turning it over to you, Antoinette.
Thank you, Kristi, and thank you for those practices and questions. So we'll do exactly what Kristi just said, just taking a breath before we go in and just sitting with what came up with us. So if you'd like to get your feet on the ground and maybe go back to Kristi's hand position, just to feel the lungs and just coming back to ourselves. And just taking those 2 questions in. If you lived your life more gratefully, what would change for you? What might be in the way of your willingness, ability to live more gratefully?
And what one thing might you be able to do?
With those questions, we can turn to each other in breakouts, just holding that we don't know what the other person in front of us may have had for breakfast, let alone our life history or story or what may have happened yesterday, and how that may have impacted us. So, just really holding space for each other. For those of you on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. We'll share more information about Kristi in the conversation space, which is conversations.womentogether.com, and we will be back together next week, and we'll be together in Women Together circles, which will be starting in October. So. For those of you on Zoom, we will now turn to breakouts. We invite you to enjoy your time together and with these questions.